Welcome to I'm an Asset podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Breanne Smith.
And I'm your other host, Zachary Wilson. Today we're going to be talking about networking, engaging in conversation, and years from just being great at what she does and learning with experience. I have been reading a book lately called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Good book.
It is a very wise book, and I'm not even like a third of the way through it, and I've already learned so much. So I can't wait to actually finish it and maybe bring some more of what I learn back to the podcast. But today we're going to it'll be kind of like what I see at my age and kind of how I would treat situations, and then contrast that with, the better approach she's mastered over the years.
Yeah, I think over the last couple of weeks, you and I have experienced some different communication styles, some different events you've been to.
Yeah.
Even yesterday, we went to go buy a tuxedo and had 2 interactions with 2 different salespeople. So I think we've got some good just life stuff that we can bring to the table as examples of what we're talking about, but then also maybe some tips, like you said, to help be successful here. One reason I think this has kind of been on your mind or has started to be on your mind is you went to the state house and you were a page and you had a lot of opportunity to talk to some really professional people and have conversations. And a lot of people that I know that see you interact with other people always tell me how very professional acting that you are. And I think that you are really good at this, what we're about to talk about today.
I'm glad. I didn't know.
That's just really just very, very social, very basic social interactions. So let's say we're in a professional setting. What are some things you think are important for students your age to keep in mind when they're interacting with, especially older people, more experienced people, professional groups?
Okay. If I'm in a professional setting, you want me to, what was the question one more time?
Do you walk up to a group already engaged with each other? Do you kind of stand and wait? Do you find somebody you know? Like, what do you do when you walk into a professional setting?
Well, me personally, I will stick with the people I know because just based on past experiences, even in America, if the people you approach don't know you, they'll be a little wary of you, and they're probably going to wonder, the one thing that will be in their head the whole conversation is, why are you approaching me? Like, I don't know you. And unless you can say, well, like, I know so-and-so, or I'm doing this and you're connected to that, like, they're going to be like, why are you talking to me? Unless you have something to offer them.
Yeah, well, I think it's okay when you're in a social networking setting to not know anybody, and it might even be very common for that to happen. I was recently at a luncheon for a benefit, and I did know many people in the room, but when I got there, many people were already engaged in conversation. So I walked in, set myself up to talk to somebody, and then I just kind of waited until I made eye contact with somebody who knew me or kind of gave me a in to come and join the conversation. I am not one to just like walk up to a group of people already engaged and just kind of interject into their conversation unless somebody looks at me and kind of gives me that invitation to come and join. And so I do kind of hold back and wait for the opportunity to join in conversations. Okay, now we talked about some of this yesterday. How do you engage other people in a conversation when you are talking to them? Like,
by nature, people, like what I was saying earlier, really don't, one of the natural instincts is to look for in any interaction what they can get out of it. And that's just human nature. And that's just, especially business environments, that's what people are going to be doing. And so if you are able to direct the conversation towards them and have them talk either about themselves or what they've been doing, they will walk away from that conversation pleased, or that's how you get people to like you, is they really don't want to hear about you. They want
to talk about themselves. Yeah, and that I actually heard a really interesting question that you can ask somebody recently. Instead of saying, "Where are you from? What do you do?" You can say, "What's really exciting you right now? What's got you really excited right now?" And that gives some people the opportunity to talk about things that they enjoy outside of work.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's really difficult, especially when you go to lunch, like we've gone to lunch with each other around here, and it's really hard not to talk about work while you're at lunch, with your coworkers. But it is nice to talk about other things and hobbies and things that excite people other than work. And I think one thing that we were talking about yesterday was, when you are intentionally keeping the other person talking by asking them about themselves, sometimes you run into a situation where that person never asks you anything back. Does that happen to you where you
That's happened before, but I mean, I mainly hang around people my age, given, where I'm going to school every day and stuff. But, they haven't taken communication majors. Like, you just talk to people and you don't really think about this stuff unless you've taken a class or heard about it.
Yeah, well, I think what we're trying to share with our audience is to think about this stuff, because one really great social skill is to engage in getting to know someone across the table or someone in a group, and asking around, kind of being genuinely interested in what's going on with other people and getting to know them, and not spending the whole time talking about yourself. Like, I think it's great when somebody asks me a question about me, but then after I answer, I like to hit them back with a question about them, and not having them, like you said, it's almost like turning into an interview where they're asking question after question after question. When somebody asks you a question because they're trying to engage you in conversation, ask them one back after you answer. Or it's one easy thing that you can always say is, "And what about you?" Same question. Or you can, modify it and ask something different. What do you think?
I agree. I would reciprocate and give them the enthusiasm. When you smile, even if you have to you probably will have to force a smile. But that indicates that you're interested. And if you can show people you're genuinely interested in them, it does more to have them be interested in you. It's kind of like the golden rule. Treat people the way you'd want to be treated. If you were talking about what you've been working on lately, what interests you, especially if it was something you held dear to you, like a hobby you really enjoyed, you'd want that person to be like, "Oh yeah, that's cool," So, you can't just ask these questions and then stare kind of like stone-faced. You do have to kind of keep up. It's difficult, especially when you don't feel like it, or if you have been if you're at like a networking event and you do this over and over again, like it's hard to do.
Yeah, you remember when we talked a little bit about it on the podcast too, where we did Two Sides of the Table, where we actually interviewed some students at a Meet the Firms event. And then you also got to do that at your school, where you got to talk to some colleges. And so there's a big room full of tables. And the thing is that you walk around and you talk to people and you ask questions and you find out about what's going on in their school. And then when we were at our tables, we were asking students about themselves. And I think this is a really great opportunity to practice these skills. I will be the first to say I am introverted. And in order to do a social event or social function, like I really got to get my mind ready for it. And
I'm the same way. Yeah.
it also really can be very draining energetically for me, because it's when something's very people-y, it takes a lot to get,
Speaking of that event, one of the indicators of a potentially good intern or addition to our company that I saw was just their ability to engage in conversation. Because sometimes you get like I always out the gate was enthusiastic. I was like, "Hi, it's nice to meet you. This is, my name's Zachary Wilson. This is our company. I'm like excited to get to like learn about you and what your skills are and what you have to offer, and we can talk about how maybe this place can suit your what you're looking for." And like I was just like I was focused, and I was like ready to aim towards the goal of why we're all there, get something out of this. And so, when people hit me back with like nothing, I was like,
it makes
everybody
it
at our company is so nice, and I don't want you to ruin that.
Yeah.
They were like, I remember one individual was just like, "Hey," and I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that? Like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, and they're just like stare at me, and I'm like, so what are you majoring in? Like, and they're like, give me a 1-word answer. And I'm like, okay. And then they don't ask me anything back, and it's like,
it's very hard. In fact,
like,
I think
why am I doing this?
I quote you, my back hurts from carrying the conversation, which was hilarious. But I think that's a really good time to tell people, or at least especially people your age, what are some things that they can do to maybe help in these situations, which is, I think that particular situation would have been great if the students had a couple of questions ready to ask back, or things that they wanted to know. So in that event particularly was a lot of different firms. And so you could have 3 or 4 different questions that you could literally just ask everybody.
Yeah.
But then if you go to a social setting, like the State House or the luncheon that I went to, where I know a lot of people, but then there's some people that I don't know, having some just general ready questions to ask people. I love the one, what's going on that's exciting you right now? I love that question. And I think a lot of people really like to answer that question. And one other thing that's a good tip is we've talked about dress appropriately, but maybe wear something that people ask about, or if you have a name tag, write something interesting on your name tag. It actually gives people the opportunity to come up and ask you about it and break that ice. I had read a book one time, a woman said she would always wear like a really beautiful brooch or something that she called a what's it, so that someone could ask her about it. What is this thing that you have?
Yeah.
And I thought that's a really good trick. And to just be prepared, especially if you are not excited about being in a very people-y situation, you need to be, and you need to get to know people. Have some things ready in your back pocket to talk about.
There's a lot of different social situations, so it'd be difficult to cover, all of like what you should have prepared for all of them. I would say in general, think about why are you there? Whether it's a date, a networking event, an interview, like what is, if this were to go well, what would you have learned or taken away from that? And think about, again, the other person, think about them too, not just yourself. And think about, what do they want to see? What would make them walk away from this going, that went well, and I got something from that.
Yeah.
And then kind of piece together, how do you get there? So like in an interview, for instance, if you wanted the boss or the interviewer to walk away thinking that person would be a good addition to our company, you would probably want to be able to talk about, your qualifications and your skills, and be like an all around good person that can that wants to work, and then you would also want to know about the company and like
Yeah.
what their environment's like, because
Yeah.
you'll be there.
And I think it's good to do a little research about the company. Look at the website, look at the people. Our websites have everybody who works here and a little bio on everybody. You could see who is currently here and have specific questions in mind. I think that's helpful on a job interview. But when you think about you're starting college next year and you're going to be in classes with a bunch of people that you've never met before, never seen. You'll have new club opportunities, new social settings, and you are going to want to make new friends and have, things that you participate in at school. And so I think just kind of getting ready for that transition is kind of what we're talking about. Are you excited about meeting new people
At
college?
Yeah. I am, because that was kind of Southern, wasn't it? Did you hear that?
I am.
Yeah. Okay. I am, because I feel like when you have transfer students from another high school or middle school, they're always like popular immediately. And I'm like, well, I get it, they're new and that's exciting, but what other factor leads people to like these people more than students who've been in this school for a while? And I think it's because no one knows about anything they've done that's bad, and they can just talk about the good stuff.
Yeah.
And when you're growing up, you do a lot of weird things as you figure out what society likes and doesn't like. And so when you go to college and you meet all these new people, I think you kind of get a do-over.
Blank slate.
And that's really nice, because you've found more of who you are, and you're able to not have to worry about what people think of you, because like it's a blank slate. You can just carry on. What am I trying to say? I think I've already said it. You know what I'm saying.
Well, you've been going to the same school since you were in kindergarten, and you have been there from day one.
Yeah.
So you've been in school with most of these people your whole life. And I think it's exciting to meet a whole new group of people. And like you said, just start a new chapter of your life. And I think you've got really great communication skills. And one thing that I think is also really good about how you communicate is when you are in a disagreement with someone, I think you're pretty patient about it, and you try to articulate like your side, but then let the other person say their side, and then work through a conflict. I think that is also going to be a great skill when we were talking about new roommates. Maybe these are people that you've known but never lived with these people before. And so that's going to come in handy talking through challenges with new people that you're going to be living with.
And we could probably even do a whole episode on arguments,
conflict resolution.
I would actually
let's write it down.
Let's do that.
Yeah. It's a good idea, Zachary.
Because there's some things I want to talk about, but we would veer off today's itinerary. So let's end out with one more thing. We've already talked about networking a little bit, and kind of what people are looking for when you're in a conversation. It all depends on, the environment and what the circumstance is, but you want to go to general communication. I'd say let's talk a little bit about when you're not in person. I think what some people what I've recently learned, I say, like, I didn't know this at the start of high school, and this is helpful to people who are starting to work really young, is there's I haven't seen it written down anywhere, so I'm going to call it an unwritten rule that you don't message people that you're like working with over the weekend, you know, and it's even got to the point where you can like schedule and you can schedule messages to go out so that, and teams will tell you, or like certain messaging devices will tell you, you know, it's late or it's on the weekend. Do you want to schedule this message to go out Monday morning? And and like it might be different in college, but like think about emailing your teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Don't email your teacher like 9 p.m. expecting a response.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything to add on that?
I really do. I think, being a professor on the academic side, I really don't mind students emailing me at all hours of the night and on the weekend. And I let my students know, I'm going to really try hard to respond to your emails within a day. And yeah, I go to bed early, so I'm not going to be up if they email me at midnight, and I just let them know that. But I don't think, most professors would mind you emailing at all hours of the night on the weekend, because we know that's when you're working on your things.
Mm-hmm.
And my students in particular have jobs too, and they are, working during the day and trying to do their schoolwork at night. And I understand that. Now, in this setting where we're in the office, I really try, and I think I have learned this maybe the hard way or over the years, where I never thought for a second, because I work on the weekends and I work at night, and I, in the past, have sent emails over the weekend, certainly not expecting anybody to respond, but that's when I'm working on it. And so I'm going ahead and emailing it while it's on my mind. However, I have come to realize that even though you're not expecting somebody to do anything about it right now, it actually does weigh on people mentally to have something to do, already on a Saturday when they're trying to mentally relax and recharge.
Yeah.
And so I'm a huge advocate for schedule. I'm going to work on the weekends, but I'm going to schedule that email to go out on Monday morning. And that way I get it out off my plate, off my mind, but that it doesn't hit your inbox until you're at the office.
That is why I like that feature. And I agree with everything you said. I think it's not bad. It's not the end of the world if you send a message during like an out of office hours, but just, don't expect a response,
Yeah.
And, if someone does send me something that I can't handle at that moment, I'll just I'll just leave it on read, or you can actually even, if you did open it, you can go back and mark it as unread so that the notification icon is still up. That way you see that and that still needs to be attended to later, and you can come back.
Yeah. I would say it's also, I'd have had a little bit of trouble with scheduling when I'm using my phone, and I use my phone a lot to respond to emails. So I have discovered that if I want to schedule an email, I have to be on my computer to do it. So that is a challenge, especially if I'm like in the middle of some, on my phone trying to remember, something. I'll make a note, or try not to forget it. But I think, being the boss, it's my responsibility to try to protect that off time of my team. I certainly don't mind if my team needs me, during outside hours, like, somebody's sick and not coming in tomorrow, or something's happened, or, or somebody needs something. I certainly don't mind for y'all to reach out to me, but I try not to do it to y'all. We also, I really try not to do it to clients either this time of year. I think, I'll make a call or two on a Saturday, say, hey, we got your tax return done. I know it's Saturday, but there's some people that I know would be, happy to pick up the phone, and others, it can wait till Monday, and I would wait. But yeah.
I'll say another thing. This is more about knowing what to expect. I do not like it much. I very much dislike it when people are like, do you want to do this? And like in a conversation casually, and I'm like, yeah, I'd like to do that. And I'll start like planning out the logistics. And I don't have all of the info as to like do you actually want to do it? Was that just mentioned in conversation? What time? When are you available? And people don't give you expectations. Or when I'm invited to something and someone's like, are you coming to this? And I need like, what
Who,
am I
what, when,
wearing?
where?
What to bring? What time? What day? What's the address? And people just leave out these crucial details. And that really bugs me. And I don't just like all that stuff too. In addition to that, if I can, I would like to know what we're doing so I can mentally prepare myself for it. And I maybe that's just something I struggle with because I mainly hang out with people who are a little younger. I mean, like, 18 and below, and not everyone's used to doing that yet. It's certainly a skill you learn as you grow up.
Yeah.
But
and you have a lot to do. So when things are happening is going to go in your calendar around the other things that you have in your calendar. And that, if you are working with somebody who doesn't have anything on their calendar and they're trying to keep it all up here, and then they don't maybe appreciate as much the need to know exactly when something is. But I agree that that's probably something that you'll get more, people around you will get more and more used to doing as you get older and more busy.
Yeah, and that's understandable. I brought that up because that's a very helpful communication.
Well, one thing that you just said made me think of, it is really not very nice or irresponsible to just throw out, hey, we should blah, 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 or let's do this thing, and then never actually follow up when you suggest, let's meet for lunch, and then you don't really mean it. And so then it doesn't get planned. And then maybe that person was really expecting you to call because you'd mentioned, hey, I want to go to lunch with you next week, but then you don't. So I think giving yourself some kind of reminder to follow up on interactions like that, because I think it's pretty rude to say, hey, or you say in a conversation, I'll do that for you. Oh, I'll take care of that. But then you don't take care of it. And you told somebody that you would take care of it. So I like to use the Notes app, especially when I'm like at a client's office or I'm in some just casual setting. I'll put it in my Notes app so that I can remember it later because I have so much stuff going on up here.
I feel really bad when I told someone I would do something for them and I'd forget.
You forget.
I feel bad. But I feel like sometimes there are throwaway comments in conversation. Like, I don't, if you're just talking about, like, let's say you're doing something completely unrelated to fishing and you both find out you like to fish and someone's like, we should go fishing sometime. Like, that's a lot to put together a fishing trip.
Yeah.
And so sometimes that's kind of just like a throwaway thing.
Yeah. But what about this, Zachary, when you tell somebody, I'll pray for you?
I don't. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people throw that out there and they don't actually really mean it.
I will. And because you can pray almost anywhere. Like you really can. I will probably do it shortly after I mention it so I don't forget because I feel bad when I forget. But yeah, I will do that. But if people text me when you get home, I never do that. I don't see the point in doing that. I guess like it's like I don't know. It's like if it's a friend that says that to me, I don't do it because I have a family. They know, they see me when I get home. Like, I don't text you every day letting you know I'm alive. Like, why is this instance any different? Yeah, I don't do that. When people say, let me know you got home safe, like, I just throw that away. I don't really think about that. What do you do that?
I do that because as a mother, I want to know that you are alive and that you've made it
for me,
home safely.
But for like other people.
And then, so if somebody genuinely, like your Grammy, for example, or someone genuinely wants to know if you're okay, you should let them know you're okay.
Yeah,
it's not for you, it's for them.
I just think about it in the long term, like, I don't know if, because I don't let you know I'm okay every night. Why does it matter anyway?
Yeah. Well, I think those are some good tips, and I think it's something we can talk about more as far as communication. I really think that we should hit on the conflict resolution discussion as you're going to be maybe working in new groups of people in classrooms and have roommates and, date new people and things like that.
It's just life.
Yeah.
Thank y'all for joining us today. We got some more stuff to talk about next time. I'm looking forward to, it's getting to be a really busy time of year, and graduation
it's just around the corner.
It gets closer and closer. It's gonna be here before I know it. And we'll get to explore those topics.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time.